You're listening to Science and Saucery, a show dedicated to adding life to your years. And now your hosts, registered dietitian Juliana Hever and scientist Ray Cronice.
Hello, welcome.
Sawadee ka.
Sawadee ka. We're coming to you today from beautiful Thailand.
Absolutely an exquisite couple of weeks we're having here. We love it here so much.
It's really great. Our friends fortunately had a studio, so we were able to jump on and do a podcast here. We're sitting in an amazing studio right now. I'm so envious of the studio. It's incredible.
Yeah, and here we are in Phuket. So I think it's pretty special that we're talking to you from here, and we can come back to this episode and remember being here and what it feels like and the views. And yesterday we saw monkeys on a beach in their natural habitat, nursing mother. We went canoeing in caves. It's just absolutely amazing here.
And the staff here is producing the most amazing plant-based meals. It's, one of the things that we got out of being here and to tell people what we've been doing, we do a trip here every year where we teach at Evazan and Blue Lotus and teach cooking for a week.
Cooking and healthspan.
Yeah. And we had an amazing class this year. Everybody was so much fun.
It was such an incredible group. Everyone, the dynamic, everyone brought so much passion, and we just all connected so deeply, like friends for life.
Yeah. So, and originally this year our book was going to come out January 20th, and it got moved up, but we had planned these trips. And so we were, preparing to come back and then push the book hard, but it came out early. And so it came right in the middle. So we really didn't do the extra classes that we could have done here while we were in Thailand. But next year we are. So there is, if you want to go to plantbasedthai.com and sign up or check there, we'll notify everybody when we announce the class.
Well, we're actually on that sign up. You could tell us which week would be best for you as we kind of arrange the actual dates right now. We're in the preliminary stage.
Yeah. So it's Sunday to Saturday at Evazan, and we have an amazing time the whole time. It's great food, great fun.
Massages. Great massages. My favorite part besides the food.
It's
actually,
really
I would have to say massages are my number one favorite part of coming to Thailand.
Yeah, it really is fun. And then also we have a trip to France.
The way I couch this, because I'm so excited. I've always wanted to go to France. And so the way I posted this, announced it was, can you say rare and appropriate in French? Because we're going to have a decadent culinary tour of Paris and Alsace and the Black Forest too. And, locally made, fresh, plant-based cheeses and wines. And, the food looks absolutely magnificent. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a really fun trip, and that's in September. Do you know the date?
I think it's September 4th.
Okay.
Through 11th.
Great.
I think I will confirm. It's so neat to be able to travel to a different country, and have this one kind of commonality. We're looking at food, and we're looking at cuisine, if you will, and we're looking at how do you put together vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices in all sorts of different ways. And you can find this anywhere. And it just adds a whole new level and excitement and variety to what we get used to, because we all get stuck on our daily ruts of, most of us eat the same foods every day. We stick to the same meals. And it's really exciting to explore the world and see all these different touches and different flavor profiles and different ways to think about food, especially when we're here going to markets and seeing, the locals and eating from the locals. You'd learn so much. And then we get to go, the other side is go to a culinary school, and we're working with professional chefs, and we're getting to see, professionally how to use these magnificent ingredients that are local to this culture, this land here, and maximize them and optimize them for our taste and nutrition. And it's been quite exquisite.
Yeah. And, I've been coming to Thailand now since 2016. And one of the real big observations, or I would say one of the main wake up calls for me, was to see how food systems somewhat degrade over time. So it took the U.S. about 50 years to become unhealthy with diet. It took India probably 30 years, China in 20 years. And now Thailand, you can see that it's on track to have the same issues, the same diabetes, the same hypertension, the same, eventually the same obesity. They're not there yet, but they're on track to do it in 10 years. And what's really interesting is that when you look at traditional Thai food, and I think most of us would think of Thai food as being, exotic or something you go out to eat or restaurant food. But here, you're in Thailand, it's Thai food. The ingredients are very common. Things like papaya or green mango and
rice.
All the different fruits, rice. And what's sad is that even in the few years I've been coming, you can see the street food, which has always been a part of Thailand, but it's increasingly becoming fried meat and sugar, fried meat and sugar, fried meat and sugar. And there's a lot
everywhere.
Right.
It's everywhere.
And there is a lot of pride in Thai food. Like food is a big part of their culture. And it's surprising that everybody is so small. And they're so small. But what you're seeing right now is the first signs of what's going to happen, just like in the U.S., because 50 years ago, people in the U.S. were small, and the heart attacks and the hypertension and those things led, and then eventually obesity came. And what's happening here is that the grandparents are all starting to get diabetes, and they're telling them to stop eating rice.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of years these people have been eating rice without a problem, and suddenly everybody's getting diabetes, and it's not the rice. And that they think it's the rice is really crazy. I understand why treating this symptom is so popular, because I always compare diabetes to driving in cars, and say if hemoglobin A1C and fasting blood glucose are biomarkers for a person who is a bad carbohydrate driver. They're like tickets and accidents, or your traffic violations being an indication of a bad driver. If you take away the car, i.e. the dietary carbohydrate, and then check out your driving record in 6 months, of course you have a perfect driving record because you're not driving. A healthy person can eat an unhealthy food like a Snickers bar and not have a glucose problem. An unhealthy person can eat white rice, which is not our first choice, but they could eat white rice and not have a problem. They could eat a sugary sweet cereal. I'm not saying these are healthy, and they would metabolize the dietary sugars just fine. But our method of just removing the antagonist doesn't ever treat the underlying dysfunction.
But that's what we're doing in healthcare in general. Someone presents with hypertension, give them a medication, and don't address the diet, which is what's causing the problem almost all the time with hypertension.
Right.
So it's what we always do, is we treat the symptom, and that's the problem with Western medicine.
And so what's really interesting here is that you're able to look a little bit more carefully because nothing's familiar to you. Like they overlook all these everyday things. We'll have a conversation like we have the conversation with Nok, who is former Miss Thailand, and she's doing her PhD right now and studying food as part of nutrition PhD. And when we have these conversations with her, things that are everyday, she just sort of looks over that because she's so familiar, because when we look at it, they say, oh my gosh, meat is so important to the diet here. And it turns out it's really not. I mean, as a flavoring, sure, a small amount of fish sauce or a small amount of shrimp paste, this wouldn't meet if you're ideologically vegan. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about the health components for the moment. And yet, when we look at the average Thai recipe, it would be very common for a Thai to be able to name more than one recipe that has vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. Has all of them. And I would suggest right now, think about it. If you haven't made something out of our book, if you could just off the top of your head, think about a recipe that has all of those groups in it. And I suspect all of us, I know I would have a hard time in the U.S. saying, other than a salad. I mean, a salad is a throwaway, right? Because it's just a bowl of stuff. But I mean, other than a salad.
Bowl of stuff.
Well, it's just a bowl of vegetables and things. And for a lot of people, it's boring. And for a lot of people, they love them. And we can make all kinds of salads. But what I'm trying to say is, other than a salad, which I think is It's the throwaway plant-based meal. Oh, you eat salads all the time? Is that what you do?
Rabbit food?
Oh, you rabbit food, right. So outside of that, when we think about the side dishes, just sides, and we think about the idea that these side dishes are made in terms of the ones we would traditionally get in the U.S., it's hard-pressed to find one that has all of those, and yet many, many Thai recipes have all of those.
Yeah, we made a bunch of them. I could think of them off the top of my head, like a bunch of them.
Right.
We made curries and we put them on rice, and we would have these elaborate stir fries, and everything was represented.
Yeah.
Deliciously
and
so.
Even the salads are often like green papaya and mango or
and nuts,
jicama
with some
or nuts,
cashews
in there.
Herbs and fresh herbs.
So the idea that
peanuts.
So first, this gives us the idea that thinking outside of the framework of eating sort of U.S.-centric, the kinds of things that people are used to eating on their way up, that's one way. But another thing is to think that moving to a diet like this forces you into the unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfamiliar also is what is a hallmark of exotic, right? If everything's special, nothing's special, right?
Right.
So I like being here because as I'm looking at what they're doing and I'm looking at their food, I'm saying, wow, they could make slight changes. For example, we need to bring the sugar down a little bit. But the reason they're using sugar is because historically the food was economically scarce.
What's kind of fun too is that our group that came this year, last year we had a lot of people from all over the country, all over the world. This time it was mostly from the US, and a lot of them were already eating plant-based diets. And we got to the point, I think on day 2 of our cooking classes, where they all wanted oil-free.
Right.
And so we adjusted all the recipes and they just made them oil-free. And it was kind of fun because it was real. I didn't even know that they had done that because we were busy preparing our lecture in the next room. And we came back, we had the whole meal, and they said, did you know that was all oil-free? And I didn't notice that. You didn't miss it at all. It was delicious. So that was kind of fun too, like a little play on what we're trying to make it a little, to neutrify those standard recipes.
Yeah. But again, back focused on this idea of the economy of food and focused on the idea that all of these recipes originated in a time of food scarcity. And so it makes sense how they use, for example, the fat from coconut or the fat from nuts, or the sugar or the coconut cream when they're using these. So, we all tend to look at it and immediately see saturated fat, refined sugar. We see it as these adulterants that are unhealthy. And that can be true, but at the same time, if you're just eating enough and you're not overnourished with it because it's economically scarce, then that's probably not a problem.
Right. And we talk about, and we still have to do a whole episode on oxidative priority, but that's where this comes in. It's kind of a way to bottom feed, naturally. Like that was part of, getting enough calories. So the rice and the coconut milk, or the peanut sauce and the rice noodles, like these, mixing the starches and the fats. And of course they're doing that with animal products as well. But yeah, it's really interesting to look at it in context and to watch what's happening from a health perspective here now.
And they're very excited to see their food through a new lens. Once we have these conversations with some of the Thai people and they see suddenly, well, yeah, you're right. We always eat that. This is common. And they're asking the same questions. I'm going to get rid of chicken.
Yeah.
I'm going to get rid of dairy. I mean, dairy is a more recent thing here. It's not something that they've been drinking forever.
But they're also getting all of the same media messaging that we're getting in the United States. They're still getting you need to get more protein, and they're still getting be careful of rice. And they're hearing the messages from their physicians and everyone here. It's still the same messaging. It's just that they're a little bit, still, it's just a little lag time in between the implementation of what's going to happen.
Right.
Of the sequelae that occur from eating this diet, that's a result of increasing the messaging of increasing more protein, making sure, all those things that make you make bad decisions, or not bad, but
less than optimal.
Encourage less than optimal decisions that can lead down that disease process.
And also visiting a place like this is a great example of rare and appropriate because
Yes, it is.
you know, on one hand, we're not planning our trips around meals, and the meals happen to be everywhere just because Thai culture is so centered on food. So they happen to be everywhere.
Well, and we were doing culinary retreat.
Right.
So.
Well, but I'm saying even
it.
outside of that, this week, for example, we're not necessarily planning our day around meals. Meals come, and they're more frequent than we would eat at home, for sure. And I know I've eaten more than I would eat at home, but it's easy to stay on plan. I mean, sure, some of them might have a little bit too much salt, and when they do, it's not as enjoyable as if they could have pulled the sodium down, but I do it that day, and I'm probably not going to have a problem. But what I'm saying is that the primary focus when we get up every day is not where are we going to get a meal. Right.
Well, okay. Perfect example. We're on a boat yesterday. We ended up at a random island. We didn't even plan ahead. We go to the island. We go to the first restaurant that they recommended. We sit down on this beach, look at the menu. There's an entire page for vegetarian and vegan options.
Yes.
I mean, in every section, the salads and then vegan and veg, everything was labeled. I mean, This was a random island restaurant on a beach that we didn't even research at all. That was mind blowing.
Yeah.
It was like we had so many options we didn't even know where to begin.
I posted a great picture from there. If you look at the picture on my Instagram,
that was beautiful.
And we were able to eat that. And then later that day, we were on the way home on the boat. And we stopped at another restaurant that they wanted to go to.
A
different island after seeing some monkeys and doing some kayaking and watching Juliana fall in the water, which was really...
Oh, you outed me.
I did
which
fall
is
in the
really
water. Great. If you could have seen the look at her face as she plunged into the ocean.
But I didn't get my hair wet.
Yeah, you didn't get your hair wet.
That was important to me. I was prioritizing that.
As her hair got closer to the water, the levitation kicked in and she sort of levitated
automatically up, I jumped back into the boat.
So, but
I can't believe you just told everyone that.
She also walked barefoot into a restaurant, which was really hysterical.
Not only did I walk barefoot into a restaurant, because I walk barefoot into places here in Thailand,
right?
But we walked from the boat up the pier, around and around to the restaurant. I mean, I never go shoeless outside. I only go shoeless inside.
I'm from Alabama. We go without shoes all the time.
I'm letting my hair down
and only take baths on Saturdays. No, but really, so we go to the second restaurant. And it was the opposite experience. We didn't have reservations, and we came in on the boat, and we came off, and they took us up, and we sat us down. It was a nice place.
Beautiful.
We all looked at the menu, and we said, there's really nothing on here that we want. So we got a coconut, and we then loaded back up on the boat and came home and made, it was made for us by a fabulous chef that lives here. But
we're getting a little spoiled.
We had this amazing plant-based spread of food that was just
extraordinary.
Incredible.
And like you said, I think almost every single dish we had was a combination of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. And it was absolutely fabulous.
Yes.
I mean, the truth is we have not suffered from lack of options. We have eaten.
There's been no
gaps.
That was a moment when we actually had to make a choice and say there really wasn't an option for us here, and it wasn't appropriate to sort of deviate at that moment. And so we just left.
It just wasn't even worth it.
It just wasn't worth it. There was really nothing on there that I wanted to eat. And Rachel and Shane, our guests, our hosts, have done an amazing job. And we talked to them even as they're migrating really more into a plant-based lifestyle. And they realized, especially they were doing it for us out of respect for us because of how we eat. And they had their chef preparing these meals. And as they're eating, they're like, we could do this all the time. We could do this all the time.
Yeah.
Of course you could.
Of course you can.
And even they don't realize it when it's that available and that easy because, their meals are coming. They have a wonderful person to cook for them, and they just have to tell them the idea. We became the impetus for that change. But even when you're home, finding a soup, a salad, a side, or a sweet is not that difficult.
Nope. No, and I always say you really don't eat a lot of different meals. We rotate through a few meals a week. We are creatures of habit. You just need to find a few recipes that are soup, salad, sides, and sweets that you love to eat. And then they become second nature to prepare. And then if you get tired of that one, you're more interested in maybe adding a little bit more savory or whatever, umami, whatever, something else. And you find a different recipe. And And that's how it flows. And it's like we always say, it's like learning a new language and, you know, just implementing new ideas and new meals. And all of a sudden it becomes your new way of life. Anyone can do it if you want to.
Yeah, it's good. And I think coming to a place like this just re-engages me to want to cook when I get home. Because I also get into ruts where it's just easy. I have things I want to do, and I'm not that interested in making food at the moment, or I'm not interested in stopping to do it. But already my brain is saying, I really want to go home and make this, or I really want to go do this. Soups, for example, for some reason, when we get back, we don't make enough Thai soups, the clear broth kinds of soups that we like. And every time I come here, I'm like, why am I not doing that more often? And I do have a good Asian store. In fact, we both do. In California and in Alabama, we have great Asian stores in terms of supplies. So we can get green papaya and green mango often. So we could make these kinds of the papaya and mango salads. But, there are things like the mango sticky rice, which we love, which is definitely not health food. It's definitely it's definitely sugar, it's definitely salt, and coconut cream. So it's not it's certainly not low calorie food, but so delicious in the small amounts.
I mean, I think it would be even easier to live here and eat this way. Like the fruit itself is like nothing we could really. It doesn't taste the same back at home. It really doesn't. I mean, it may give you hints of it. But everything here is like so ripe and juicy and fresh, and these unique flavors that like mangosteens. And then one of our students that was there was obsessed. He a self-proclaimed addict of durian.
So we had the whole group
taste the durian. Well, we didn't have. Yeah, it was like we had it at the end. And I mean, there's just so many exotic, amazing fruits that it just makes you want to eat fruit. And I'm not even a big fruit person.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's. I think it's more available than we think. But here it's just in front of us. It's true. Any jackfruit you get here is going to taste amazing. And the real jackfruit is not the stuff you make fake meat out of.
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks.
Everybody when you say jackfruit, they think of green, unripe jackfruit that can have the texture of pork or the texture that we're not talking about that.
Which is great too, but that's a whole different world.
But we're talking about the actual fruit that tastes like
juicy
fruit gum, because that's where juicy fruit got its original flavor profile from.
It's exactly like juicy fruit. It's weird.
And it's delicious. Or all the other ones that we get, all the longans that we get every day, the pomelos. I mean, there's so many great fruits that are always available.
I love the papaya. That's my favorite.
The papaya. There's a lot of papaya here.
The best papaya.
Yeah. And mangoes. They have so many different mangoes. And we stop, for example, when we were going down to the resort, we stop on the side of the road and get the pineapples. And these pineapples, they kind of peel off in a spiral.
It's like a Rubik's Cube when you take out one of the squares. You take out a little piece of pineapple.
And then they all come out.
And they don't cut it. It just is born that way.
Right.
It's so weird. It's so cool. Oh, dragon fruit.
Dragon fruit.
Oh, it's like the prettiest fruit you've ever seen. The pink, green outside with the white speckled, like polka dotted flesh on the inside.
And the flesh tastes so sweet and so
soft.
ripe.
Oh,
we get them often there. When we get them at home, they're not as ripe. But part of it is when you come to a new place like this, you get excited about doing things, and then you go back home to your habit, and then slowly, by day, the habits start to fade, and you're back to what your old life was like. And so when making a change, until the new diet is equally convenient, familiar, and enjoyable, you don't have a choice. One or more of those will likely dominate your plate. The same can be said for lifestyle. If you come to a place like this, and when we get back, if we focus on the first couple of weeks of cooking a few of these meals as a regular rotation so that we remember to do it. It's not that we don't know how to do it. It's not that we don't have the ingredients to do it. We just don't do it.
Yeah, we just need to do it.
Right. And I think that part of this episode of what we're trying to bring in sort of an overall message is the idea that we can see our own culture and what we're doing through others. There's a real power in that. T.S. Eliot in the Gidding writes, we shall not seek from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know that place for the very first time. And I feel like this is part of it. That was part of my mantra when space exploration was my prime directive. And now that I'm helping people find a lifestyle, adapt a new lifestyle that is uncomfortable in the beginning, and making it so that it is convenient, familiar, and enjoyable, I realize the value of pulling way out of your comfort zone. And no, not everybody can come to Thailand, but right there in front of you in your city, right now in your space, there are people that are eating whole food plant-based diet and eating it successfully and reaching out to that community, finding a place where you can be more engaged and more motivated to try something new. Or you pick up Healthspan Solution Cookbook.
Or you just do it yourself.
And
you don't
start
have
doing
to.
it.
It doesn't have to be a big deal.
Right. And one important part about this change is you don't have to involve your family. If your family is doing something normal, we say in the book.
You held it normal.
Well, normal is what they're doing. I would say what we're doing isn't normal, but normal is broken too, or normal is unhealthy. And so you continue to prepare the food or have the food around, not require that your friends and family change to your diet. Don't let your diet become their diet. You just go in, pick out some recipes and make those recipes and get a sense of the ingredients list. Because until you can go to the grocery store without a list and you can just buy things and put them in there and know what you're going to be preparing with those foods, you really haven't got it at that level. And I think the way you do that is repetition.
Absolutely. We say plan, practice, persist. You plan, you find even one recipe that sounds good. Go get all the ingredients, try it. If you love it, try it again the next time. And then it's secondhand. So you don't have to think about it. It just becomes natural. It doesn't have to be difficult. Everything could be really super simple. And I think that the more people you involve, the more complicated it gets, the more reasons you'll find to not continue because it becomes a battle. And I went through this personally. I went through this with my family. It was a real battle and it was very difficult, but right. I was determined. And that's why I think I still persisted with it. But I see now with our clients too, we tell them, do not talk about it. Just this is your world and your experience. And if you don't involve people, you don't have to deal with all of the questions, and it makes you start they plant seeds and make you have your own questions. Where are you getting your protein? It's the perfect example. Yeah. So
yeah. And with my family, I never told them anything.
Yeah.
I never said anything. I just started eating this way on November 23rd, 2009. And they all came to eating this way. They're not
saw
100%.
What happened to you. Yeah.
Right. They're not 100%, but when my children were there, they knew that this is the food that's there to eat, and we just ate it. It wasn't we're going to eat plant-based or you need to eat. And then I find them often. Alexia does streams where she talks about plant-based diet, talks about food, and so she does Twitch and YouTube and Instagram, Alexia Ray. And she's not straight plant-based at this point, but she's mostly plant-based, and increasingly, like right now, she's done with dairy, so that's just out. And she always understood the connection for her own self between cheese and acne, so she put that aside. But they just mimicked, they emulated what I was doing. I never told them they needed to eat this way.
And that's what all the research suggests, is that it's not do as I say, do it not as I do. The number one advice that dietitians give moms and dads is eat healthy, make those choices. Don't tell your kids to eat broccoli while you're sitting there slurping down the ice cream. It's just, they're watching and they're mimicking. And, you think I'm just going to tell them and they have to listen to me. And it's a battle. And I love that you didn't battle that. And I think forgetting even beyond kids, just a partner, it's very hard to get someone else involved unless they're there with you, and it can be a wedge. So I remember I tried with my husband. I was like making him watch movies and documentaries and making him come to conferences with me, and he kind of got it. He didn't really get it, but it was a challenge. And we tell our clients, just don't worry about it. Your spouse or your significant other can just do whatever, do their thing, and it's okay. And if you don't give them a hard time, you don't guilt them or pressure them, then they'll see the benefits. I mean, there's always, positive advantages of changing to eating this way, and they may be inspired and they may not, and that's okay too.
Be a lighthouse, not a tugboat.
Touche.
Yes.
Right back to that. That's right.
So I guess, overall, our trip here represents getting out of our own comfort zone, and really making a change in your life requires that you're going to be out of your comfort zone for a little while. And I want you to at least consider the idea of sort of a no matter what time period. Find a time period where you will stay focused on your diet. Find some of those recipes in the cookbook that you would look like you can enjoy and you enjoy making. The soups are always going to be sort of the lowest energy in terms of making soups. There's usually much more simple soups and stews. Is much more simple than eggplant rollatini. But find a few things that you really can eat and focus on those kinds of foods that you probably wouldn't normally try. Try something in the sweets. Try fruit one day, where you're just eating fruit for a day, just to move out of your comfort zone of what you would do in a normal day.
Excellence does not happen within your comfort zone. And it's terrifying for some more than others to go past it and to push somewhere else. But there's so much reward that can come from it. And if you don't get what you were hoping you're going to get, the worst case scenario is you learn something. So experimenting and trying new things can either lead to growth and excellent new exciting options and availability choices, or you just go back to your comfort zone and try something else next time. It's a safe thing to try to do. We always think that it's so risky to kind of push. Like, I really was not afraid, but I was nervous to come to Asia for the first time before, like to come to Thailand and teach a retreat. Like, what? I haven't been to Thailand before. And every single time you kind of push me past that, it's been nothing but extraordinary. I have just grown, in deep levels that I never expected. And I'm so grateful. And we've had in each of our groups over the last we've done 3 retreats now officially, 3 week-long retreats. And in each of those 3 groups, there were people that came from far away, all alone. There are a few ladies that came. In fact, a couple of ladies, 2 different trips came from my hood, from Los Angeles, all alone and didn't really know what they were getting into. And I just feel like that's so brave, but they had an amazing time. They all were so happy, and we have connected with people for life. And that wouldn't have happened if they didn't take that leap.
I know. It's just, it really is phenomenal to think about that. And one of our students this time, Dr. Kathy Naughton, we're going to do an interview with her in the next 2 weeks. So you guys will love hearing this.
Oh, baby. We're getting sexy.
Yes, she's a urologist and MIT grad, plant-based urologist.
Who specializes in sexual health. And she's awesome.
She is amazing.
An amazing
So we're going to
woman.
have that'll be a long podcast.
I hope
we'll give.
Yeah.
Oh man, all the jokes now are going to start. So
Raymond.
There we go. So, but anyway, I'm glad we could talk a little bit and share this with you. We still have a little bit of work left to do here with other retreats that we're looking at planning for next year, and other facilities that we're working with, other kinds of programs that we're looking at doing. But we wanted to share with you this message that this doesn't have to be boring, and vacations can be exciting, and you don't have to deviate. You can actually stay on it in many places.
And expand. We've expanded our culinary knowledge from coming here. We've expanded the types of foods that we could find on the road and traveling. It's so exciting. I feel like it's very exciting. So thank you so much for joining us here in Thailand on our leafy green path to good health.
It's always the food. So remember,
keep eating right.
Thank you for listening to Science and Saucery. For more details about the content in today's show, or to contact Juliana and Ray, please visit us at healthspansolution.com.